Front 6 cars, single file this time off turn 4. 12 to go, and they come to the stripe. In a few moments, we will find out who wins the Western Auto Mechanic of the Race Award. $2,000 to be given out to the top mechanic today from Western Auto, the official auto parts and service store of NASCAR. Plus points toward the $25,000 Western Auto Mechanic of the Year award. We'll also find out shortly who the members of the media covering today's Pepsi 400 will vote the Goodies Headache Award to. $1,500 from Goodies, the official pain reliever of NASCAR, to the Goodies Headache Award winner at race's end.
That scramble for the lead is still a hot one. It's in turn 3.
John Andretti continues to defend that inside lane. Here's Dale Earnhardt trying the middle of the banking. He slips up just a little bit, but right behind him is Dale Jarrett. So just that quickly, he gets back to the bottom off turn 4.
By the way, Michael Waltrip, after that little shuffle off the racing surface he had a moment ago, is back in line in 30th position, still on the lead lap and in the lead draft, but he has obviously lost a lot of ground. Front 5, single file, side by side for 6. Sterling Marlin down to the inside of Terry Labonte, back to 1.
Terry Labonte had gone by Sterling Marlin about a lap ago. Marlin came back, used the inside lane and some drafting help, now to power back into the 6th position. Up front, though, John Andretti still looking back to see what Earnhardt's going to do from the 2nd spot.
For now, Earnhardt will stay in line in 2nd position. Further back, the battle for 7th had been side by side. Ward Burton had been challenging Terry Labonte, but Labonte holds him off.
Now Burton feels a little challenge from Ernie Irvan. Burton opens up the inside lane just that quickly. Ernie dives to the bottom. They'll go side by side as the black Ford challenges Burton off turn 4.
But as they do all that back there, running door to door, they watch the front 5 or 6 cars get even further away. They come down to the line. John Andretti crosses the stripe. 10 laps to go. The indication as he works his way back into turn number 1. Dale Earnhardt sits right behind him. Dale Jarrett's there in 3rd. They're all heading over to turn 2.
7 cars, all nose to tail, marching back into the corner. John Andretti at the head of the pack. Here's Sterling Marlin and Terry Labonte at the tail end of that pack, taking a little bit different line. They'll take the high side in turn 2. Won't do them any good, though. They fall back into single file in the back straightaway.
Sterling Marlin just as quickly changes lanes on the run, now goes to the inside and tries to force his way up alongside of Dick Trickle in a battle for 5th.
Terry Labonte will go along with him as they dive to the inside of Trickle. Here's Sterling Marlin flanking Trickle as they climb the banking. Now Trickle tries to battle back, but he has no drafting help. Still side by side up turn 4.
Performance of the day by Sterling Marlin, rallying back from a lap down, charging now, trying to get into the top 5 in the final 9 laps of the Pepsi 400. He has 5th by about a foot on Dick Trickle at the start-finish line, but he has not cleared him yet as the front 5 stays single file, the front 4 rather, still for 5th. The race is on in 1.
Dick Trickle gets drafting help now from Terry Labonte, who's been fighting with Sterling Marlin for the last few laps. Trickle gets by, gets back up into the 5th position. Now Sterling swings to the inside to get by Terry Labonte.
Sterling Marlin moves up into the 6th position now. Terry Labonte is drop kick back into 7th. Ward Burton and Jeff Burton come next.
Dick Trickle, meanwhile, draws up on the backside of Mark Martin. Now he thinks about making an outside move. He's strong to the top of the banking, and Sterling Marlin will go with him. Side by side with Martin for 4th.
Tell you what, if I wore a hat, I'd take it off to Dick Trickle, the run he's had here today also. Dick has hung in there all day long and is determined not to give up that 4th place right now, although he's got plenty of heat being put on him. Mark Martin gets shuffled down to the inside. No drafting help there. He's going to lose a spot or 2, and they get 3 wide back at about 7th place in turn 1.
Martin holds the inside lane back in the 7th position. The line is forming on the outside. That's not going to help him at all. Ward Burton is there with drafting help from brother Jeff. Also Ernie Irvan and Bobby Labonte working the outside lane off turn 2.
Here's Sterling Marlin taking a peek to the inside of Dick Trickle. That's a battle for the 4th spot. For now, however, Trickle will hold off the challenge and maintain 4th position.
Dale Jarrett taking a shot at Dale Earnhardt, peeking to the outside, down at the end of the back straightaway, but just that quickly he drops back in line. Here's Marlin trying the top of the banking on Trickle. Trickle puts on the block in the 4th corner.
Let's point out a lap ago also, Jimmy Spencer on a lap by himself dropped down onto the apron of the track of the back straightaway, let the whole pack go by him since he can't gain or lose anything by doing that. Good move of sportsmanship there on the part of Spencer, and the Campbell team unable to get their lap back earlier. They're going to let everybody else race for position. Field is in 1 now with 7 laps to go.
Earnhardt maybe trying to make his move. He climbs the banking going after the lead, but drafting help falls in line behind Andretti. That is Dale Jarrett. They fall back in single file now.
Here's Sterling Marlin once again from the 5th position, diving down to the inside of Dick Trickle's car. They go side by side with Jarrett now working up in front of Sterling Marlin.
Trickle in the middle middle of the banking. He'll go up to the top now as Sterling Marlin dives to the bottom. They'll stay side by side in turn number 3. Which way will Terry Labonte go? He's right in the middle, splitting the difference between the two as they race off turn 4.
6 laps remain in the Pepsi 400 here at Daytona to settle it as they come down to the line. Andretti's been able to hold everybody off. A moment ago, Earnhardt put a move on the outside. Had he had a little drafting help over there, Joe Moore, he might have been able to pull it off.
Could have made it, but again, the drafting help fell in line behind Andretti down on the inside lane. This time, Earnhardt does not try that. Dick Trickle does, though. He's trying to get the 3rd spot from Dale Jarrett. Trickle drives up the banking, but quickly snaps it back in line off turn 2.
Trickle has to get down in line to try to shut off the advance of Sterling Marlin, who's still there in 5th. Marlin, meanwhile, has his hands full trying to hold off Terry Labonte.
Feeling some heat from Labonte down the back straightaway, and now looking to the top of the banking as Marlin goes low. Battle is for 4th. Trickle opens up the inside lane, and Sterling Marlin is 4th as he races off the 4th corner.
Sterling Marlin continuing his charge to the front, trying to be a factor in the finish of the Pepsi 400. Down to the stripe, 5 laps to go. John Andretti trying to score his first NASCAR Winston Cup win. Dale Earnhardt and Dale Jarrett all over his back bumper, fighting for 2nd and the lead back to 1.
Here is Jarrett going to the outside of Dale Earnhardt. This is the race for 2nd. It's Ricky Rudd goes up the banking. He's collected by Lake Speed in turn number 1. Rudd slams hard. Here now Hut Strickland, also Morgan Shepherd to the inside. Michael Waltrip. Other cars taking evasive action down low. Rest of the field gets by. Terrific damage to Ricky Rudd's car and to Hut Strickland's.
Maybe the race to the finish of the Pepsi 400. Leaders are in 3.
John Andretti with a 2-car length advantage. Dale Earnhardt is glued to the bottom of the racetrack. Nobody steps out of line. Nobody can do anything with Andretti.
Here he comes off of turn number 4. Caution flag waving at the start-finish line. Earnhardt looks outside. He will not be close enough to make a move. Caution flag with 4 laps to go. John Andretti leads to the stripe. The yellow waving after a hard crash in turn 1. Let's go back to Joe Moore.
4 cars still littered on the inside of the track over here. Morgan Shepherd now beginning to fire his car and drive away. Hut Strickland with significant damage the right front of his car. Michael Waltrip, who had such a good run earlier today, his car crippled, sitting down on the inside of the racetrack. And again, we told you the right side and the front of Ricky Rudd's car severely damaged. Rudd looked to be getting crossed up coming into the corner. He was collected by Lake Speed, that all the traffic that was bearing down on them tried to make evasive action. Some got by. These other 3 did not.
We see that Ricky Rudd has climbed from his machine down in the corner. It looked like Ricky was up behind Ernie Irvin and either made a move to the outside or the car started to get away from him somehow. Anyway, on the short straightaway from the tri-oval to turn 1, as he was behind Ernie Irvin, the back end of his car started waggling around, spun on him, and then he was collected by Michael Waltrip and the others involved in the corner in turn 1.
And all the drivers are out of their cars now. We're seeing Hut Strickland getting a little bit of help climbing from his car. Also back over in the turn 2 area, we saw Michael Waltrip climb from his car, and as you reported, Ricky Rudd is out and looks to be okay.
From there, John Andretti beat Dale Earnhardt back around to the caution flag. Will we be able to go back racing before lap 160? It's going to be tough. The Pepsi 400 is going to come down to a final 1-lap sprint. The green and white flags will wave at the same time. One more trip around the 2.5-mile Daytona International Speedway to decide the victory in this 39th running of the Pepsi 400. It's been a great race thus far. Dale Earnhardt in the last several laps before the caution flag was all over the back bumper of John Andretti, could not find a way around. Dale Jarrett looked antsy. You've got Sterling Marlin right in the mix now. Question is, can any of them get it done in just one more lap?
Alan, one interesting note here. I just talked to Larry McReynolds. I said, can you pick up enough momentum to pass him on the last lap? He said, well, we've been pathetic on restarts all day. We'll see how it shakes out here.
Well, the whole key is going to be how quick they do come up through that gearbox and get going before they get to turn number 1. In restrictor plate racing, we both know that it takes a full lap to really get the thing wound out. So if you get shuffled on the restart at all, wherever you get back to, you're never going to be able to make it back up with just 1 lap to go. And when just before that caution came out, we were sitting here saying, well, Elvis has left the building. I don't think so.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it has completely thrown the circumstances of the finish upside down. John Andretti has dominated the race thus far today. Now, though, has to face a restart and has to have a flawless restart and come up through the gears and get back around one more lap of this Daytona Speedway to get his first NASCAR Winston Cup Series win. Pace car heads for pit road. Time for the green and white flags.
Well, you get ready to really tighten those seat belts up and hang on down to the line. White flag and green flag come in the air. They come up through the gearbox, and Dale Jarrett is literally pushing Dale Earnhardt. Andretti gets a good restart. He'll pull away by half a car length. Let's follow this one down to turn 1.
Jarrett Still is pushing Dale Earnhardt. This is the race for the second spot. Now, just as they come into the banking of turn 1, Jarrett drops down low alongside Earnhardt. He's got the momentum. Jarrett's going to go for the second spot. It's allowing Andretti to stretch out his lead. 5 car lengths now as Earnhardt now to the outside, and Sterling Marlin goes low, 3 wide.
Meanwhile, John Andretti with the lead is on the backstretch for the final time this afternoon. They're 4 wide behind him, but Andretti leads by 5 car lengths.
All that scrambling for second, and now there's trouble up in turn number 3. Mark Martin, Ward Burton, and Dick Trickle crash at the top of the banking as John Andretti shoots off turn 4 to the checkered flag.
Cars still spinning and crashing in turn 4 is down to the stripe. John Andretti is going to win the Pepsi 400, his first NASCAR Winston Cup Series win. 1 car length over Terry Labonte. It'll be Dale Earnhardt and Sterling Marlin side by side for third, and several of the lead cars involved in a hard crash in turn 4. Mark Martin, Dale Jarrett, and others getting together. Ward Burton involved there also, I believe. Let's go back to Fred Armstrong.
Also, Lake Speed involved. Jimmy Spencer's involved. Joe Nemechek is involved. You reported Mark Martin. There are several cars down on the inside of the apron now, and it all started at the beginning of turn number 3, and a chain reaction accident began as everybody was just coming up to speed. John Andretti, meanwhile, scampered off the corner and headed back to the checkered flag.
And coming across the line also, Bobby Hamilton with the whole front of that STP Pontiac caved in, but he did drive it across the start-finish line as we're seeing more cars get fired up there now with smoke trailing from the machines trying to get down to the start-finish line, as at least 7 or 8 cars got a piece of that again up in turn 3 and 4. Back to Fred Armstrong.
Also involved is Jerry Nadeau. His car just now coming to rest on the inside of the banking. We'll take a look and see who's climbing out. Some safety crews coming to the aid of Dick Trickle. Trickle just now climbing out of his machine. Lake Speed also appears to be climbing from his. Safety vehicles and wreckers are on the scene down here tending to the drivers.
A multi-car accident racing for positions in the final lap of the Pepsi 400, but John Andretti will be the happiest driver of all here today. He will go to victory lane, his first NASCAR Winston Cup Series win. We'll talk with John and the other top finishers in today's race as we continue our coverage from the World Center of Racing.